Heath here from pickinglessons.com. In this guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at a Travis picking fingerstyle arrangement of Angeline The Baker in the key of D. We're in open D tuning, and we'll get to that in a moment, and we're going to have a look at the technique we're using, break it down, have a look at how we're going to play the tune, and also take a look at the first 4 measures of part A. If you head to pickinglessons.com, you'll be able to get yourself a copy of the tablature which has this full arrangement, part A and B in there. You'll also find the next part of this lesson where we'll finish off part A and have a look at part B as well, so pickinglessons.com. Alright, so let's start out with a slow playthrough of the first 4 measures just so you can see what we're going to do. Then we'll break it down, chat about the Travis picking technique, and we'll talk about the open tuning as well and where the melody lies. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's the first 4 measures within this arrangement. We're playing in open D, so the open D tuning for a start, we have from string 6, D, then A, then D, an F sharp, an A, and a D. So if you're unfamiliar with this open D tuning, use your tuner. So one more time, D, A, and D, F sharp, so G down to an F sharp, A, B down to an A, and the D would be the E string down to the D, giving us an open D chord, which works great for this melody because the melody is really easy to access. And the idea for this lesson was that I had a little kitchen mishap on my 3rd finger. It's okay, but I'm avoiding it at the moment, and I'm trying to only use my first 2 fingers. So the melody for this tune, while we're in open D tuning, is actually really easy to cover, and you might notice that I'm only using my 1st and 2nd fingers for that reason. Now, firstly, let's have a look at what we're doing with this Travis picking technique. If we split our 2 parts down, firstly, the low part with our thumb looks like this. So over those first 4 measures, you'll notice that the thumb there, if you're looking in the music in the tablature or the notation, the thumb there is the lower part or the lower voice. Now, if we have a look at the melody, the upper voice, the melody ends up being this. Now, when we combine the 2 together, I guess that's where the magic of the Travis picking style comes in. So when we hear it together, sounds great. It's really fun to play this one. So breaking it down, what I'd suggest is make sure that you're comfortable with your thumb. Now I'm using a thumb pick. You don't need to use a thumb pick. You can just use a thumb, that's fine. So our thumb, I'm palm muting that bass just to keep it in check a little bit so it's not too overbearing, not too dominant, so that the melody sticks out. That's important. We wouldn't need to do that, but you'll find that if I don't palm mute, I just feel like that lower end is just too dominant. So that's why I'm palm muting, but it gives it a nice feel as well when we palm mute it. So again, up to you, but that's how I'm doing that there. Now, in terms of the melody, in the left hand, just fingering, you can use 1st and 2nd fingers, you can use your 3rd as well if you wish, but I'm avoiding that one this week. It's really quite straightforward. Right hand, again, pretty straightforward. You could get away with using 1 finger, or 2 fingers would be okay as well. And remembering our thumb is playing those low notes. So to get into this, if you haven't really Travis picked much, what I would do is pick a measure to work on. For example, we just have a look at what's in measure 1. Just starting to get that, and basically what you're going to have is either a melody note with the thumb, like on beat 2, so measure 1, beat 1, thumb, then thumb and finger for that melody note, thumb and finger for that melody note on beat 3. Then on beat 4, we'll separate, so we're going to go thumb and finger. So that's the other option. We're going to have the thumb, then the finger play. So beat 1 in measure 1, beat 2, beat 3, 4. And looping this as an exercise is a great idea, particularly if you're unfamiliar with the Travis picking technique. It's a nice way of getting into it. I guess we're not learning the Travis picking technique as such in this lesson. We're just having a look at the tune and breaking down the ideas. But if you are unfamiliar with the technique, that will get you started. Just one more time. thumb, then finger and thumb, then finger and thumb, thumb and finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So an exercise like that will help you get into the technique. An interesting thing that will happen next though is we hammer on as our thumb plays. That can be awkward, even if you have been playing Travis picking for a while, that coordination can be hard. So measure 1 ending into the beginning of measure 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. So the hammer on there as our thumb comes in. So practicing there, you could go from beat 4, into beat 1 of measure 2. And the idea again is that our thumb, finger, hammer as our thumb comes down to string 6. Beat 2 on measure 2 is a pinch, so together on the same beat. Then interesting, the next half of that measure we're crossing over between thumb, finger. So once you build these first 2 measures here in part A, you're going to find the rest of the tune becomes much easier to play. The variations we have here are very similar to what happens in the remainder of the tune. Perhaps playing a note, pinching with a bass note on the offbeat after your thumb, or hammering on or sliding or something on the offbeat as well. So first 2 measures, let's include the pickup note this time. 3, 4, and. One more time, 3, 4. So first 2 measures there. Now it gets a little busier in the next 2 measures. So we pick it up from measure 3. And we're crossing over into this G position in the tuning here. So there's our G root note of the chord. That's the B for the melody. And so our chord shape ends up being these first and second fingers there. And we have, we're kind of walking into the chord with our melody note, then the root note comes in second. So we have our, from measure 3, second finger in there, then into measure 4, first finger comes in to catch that low G, and then that crisscross thumb, finger, getting us back into the next measure, measure 5 coming up. So measure 3 to measure 4, 3, 4. Now, I would take this and break it down if you're unfamiliar with the techniques. It's kind of straightforward once you get to look at it, remembering that the low part of what we're playing is thumb, and we're palm muting that at the moment, well I am. And then our melody is played on that top with our fingers, and we either have a melody note with the bass, we can have it in between our bass notes on the offbeat, or we might have it with an offbeat then hammering on, perhaps with a slur or a slide or something onto the beat, so like we find at the end of measure 1 into measure 2. Let's just finish off by playing those first 4 measures of the tune nice and slow. So from the pickup note, 3, 4, and 1. Watching that G position there. Okay, practice it up slow, break it down, work on just the thumb, bringing in on 1 melody note. Like we find there in measure 1, then bring in the next melody note. So step it 1 piece at a time. It will start to make sense once you start to get into it. It becomes very automatic. The technique sounds really impressive and sounds quite intricate, but once you get into it, it's all about just learning the patterns and letting your fingers do the work, and you're not thinking about what you're playing. That's the important part. So step it slowly, break it down, get to know it well in the first place, then build it up from there. Okay, so if you head to pickinglessons.com, we will break down the second half of part A. We'll finish that off, and then we'll jump into part B as well. The tablature there. You've also got a play along track that you can download. So you can download that, put in a slowdowner, use it to practice along as you're getting to know the tune. So pickinglessons.com, I'll see you there.